What's that like? What's going on, people? Hey, it's another edition of the What's That Like podcast, and I'm your host, John Knowles. It's been 3 months since we did a show, and I got to tell you, a lot's happened in the last 3 months. Obviously, here we are in April. It's quarantine. We're all locked down. When Zach Weigel and I did the wrap up for the decade of 2010 through 2019, we did a little prediction game of, hey, what do you think the next 20 years is going to look like? I think the only thing I got right was I thought more people are going to be working from home. I didn't know it was going to be happening within 90 days that the whole world was going to change like it did. And a lot of people are working from home, and God bless all you first responders, nurses, doctors, healthcare workers in all fields. God bless you all, the essential workers, everyone out there. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I've been pretty lucky, my family and I, through this so far. We've been locked down. This is day 22 for us. We've been going since like the 13th or 12th or something of March. My daughter, she's a nurse. She works down in St. Louis. We certainly pray for her each and every day that she's protected with all the gear that she needs. And hopefully we come out of this looking good. But I know a lot of you folks out there are hunkering down as well. Take this stuff serious. Wash your hands. Do what you can to prevent the spread of this COVID-19 coronavirus stuff, and let's get it done, get it over with, and quickly as we can. This episode was actually something I've been planning to put out for a while. I just haven't been busy, and of course, I want to get it out there now because the subject, one of the subjects of the interview I'm going to play for you, is actually out on another adventure right during the middle of all this stuff, and that's Brad Fiori. The episode I'm going to play for you is Brad Fiori and his partner Shayne Isbell, and this is part 2 of of an interview I did with him back in the fall. We posted the first one about hiking the Appalachian Trail. This is the second one where they actually canoed the Florida Keys, they biked the country of Vietnam, and they hiked across England. And you'll hear about all 3 adventures here. I know we're all stuck and just hoping for another adventure we can have someday. Obviously, you're going to hear some stories about Vietnam, and you kind of go, wow, that Southeast Asia, and you can kind of see how maybe some of this current coronavirus and stuff spreads. That's the way it kind of is over in that part of the world in terms of cleanliness and hygiene. But you'll hear Brad and Shayne talk about all that in context of what it was. Again, when we recorded this last fall. I'm going to do kind of, this is the third in the Brad Fiori trilogy, so to speak. We did the first episode with him when he biked around America. We're going to repost that. We did the second episode, like I said, last fall with he and Shayne, where they hiked the Appalachian Trail. And this is part 3. And part 4 will happen probably sometime this fall. Brad is currently out hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, which is runs from the border of California and Mexico all the way to the Canadian border in Washington State. I think it's 2,700 miles. I don't know what it is. He's about, a week and a half, 2 weeks in, just came over Mount, I think it's pronounced Mount Jacinto or Jacinto. You can follow Brad on his adventure here on Facebook. It's facebook.com, of course. And then look for the group Mile and a Half. That's what it's called. Mile and a Half. And Brad usually posts an update each and every day. I know you're stuck at home. I know this is not the time that you'd love to be out on an adventure if you're listening to this, but maybe you're doing this on a workout. You're walking around, you're in your home, you're doing whatever it is you're doing. You can follow along with Brad day to day on Mile and a Half. And you can listen to this episode right here that was recorded last fall. It's a new episode. We haven't released it yet. It's a new episode to you. I just want to put it in context of when this was recorded. So Brad and Shayne were in studio with me when we did this, obviously, about 4 months ago. And now, of course, everybody's locked down on quarantine. I want to give a shout out to each and every one of you out there. We don't have a sponsor on this show. Small businesses around here are hurting, so I'm not really going out there to solicit any sponsorship from any of those folks at this time. So this is pretty much ad free, but I'm going to play a little bumper because my old producer, Bob, now he started his own podcast. So here's a little preview of that. And after that, we'll get into the interview with Brad and Shane.
Hey guys, what's going on? Producer Bob here, and I wanted to let you guys know that I've started my very own podcast called the ATA Network Podcast. And on my show, we cover all things racing, tech, and a lot more with a variety of guests and co-hosts. Every weekend, we release a brand new episode, and you can check it out on all major podcast platforms like Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and Libsyn by searching for the ATA Network Podcast. You can also find the show on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/ATA Network.
Shane, Brad, we're back here on the What's That Like podcast. Second time this season, but you had so much stuff to talk about. We had to spread it out over 2 episodes.
Yes.
How you guys doing?
Good to be back.
Yeah, it's great to be back. We're very popular.
It's always, well, the last episode we talked about you both and what the joys and the horrors and everything else are. Not necessarily horrors. You guys had a lot of fun on the AT, right?
It's always one of those deals when you're out there, it sucks, but then you come home and we start talking about it, and we're like, God, that was so much fun. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
Just living free and, the stories.
When you get done with something like this, how long does it take you before you're ready to start planning the next one?
Sometimes within 24 hours,
Yeah.
we're home and he starts planning the next trip. I'm like, dude, we haven't even been home for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes literally on these adventures, I come up with another adventure. I'm like, wow, we should do that. And then we talk about it for a while. Most of the time, a lot of the adventures fade away. They never happen, but within a couple of weeks, I got the itch to do something.
Well, in previous shows, we talked about you went out on the Appalachian Trail. Obviously, that's something a lot of people heard about. You're getting ready to go out on the Pacific Crest Trail. That's something you want to do here in 2020.
Yes.
But that doesn't even take us to where you've been in 2019, where you did. And you got done with the Appalachian Trail. Not even all the way done. It's kind of in the middle of that as you broke it up. You guys went to Vietnam.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about
Yes.
today. You had a couple of trips, one of them being Vietnam. You went to England and you hiked across England. And then at some point you decided, hey, we've tackled cycling and hiking. Why don't we get in a couple of canoes and go around the Florida Keys too?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
I don't know.
A couple kayaks. That was a short trip.
I don't know where to start with you folks. So let's just take it chronologically. Which one of those 3 trips came first?
The kayaking trip we did in 2018, and around Thanksgiving of 2018, we did the kayak.
And where do you even come up with the idea to jump in a kayak? Do people do this?
I'm usually the brainstormer of our.
I was not happy about it at all.
Actually, to be in full disclosure, I actually asked somebody else to go with me, a friend. And he said yes, and then Shane no, I'm going. So I had to call him and say, dude, you're out. Shane's going to go.
Smart move.
Yes.
Yeah. If you go with him, you can just stay, is probably what you said.
Right.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Exactly.
But where do you have why? Where do you come up with kayaking around the Florida Keys? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I had a lot of time on my hands. I still have a lot of time on my hands. I was just researching one day, and I was like, wow, there's this trail, this kayak canoe trail that runs from Key Largo to Key West. I said, we ought to do that. And like I said, I'd ask a friend, and then Shane said it was cool. And basically, I've got a trailer and 2 15-foot sea kayaks, and we just loaded them up on Thanksgiving weekend, I think a week before Thanksgiving of 2018, and drove down to the Florida Keys. But there's a lot of logistics involved in this trip.
Tell me.
The logistics, well, number one, you got to drive all the way down to Key Largo.
Which is not an easy drive.
It's a 22-hour drive, and
Yeah.
pulling a trailer, I don't know, it took us a better part of a day to get there. We had to stop in Valdosta, Georgia, and then we drove the rest. No, we didn't stop in Valdosta. We stopped in somewhere in Florida. I can't remember, but we drove it in about a day. It took about 24 hours. But is parking the truck and trailer. So I had contact with this guy that owned a lot down there, and basically it's the trust thing again. He's like, hey, here's the combination. Throw the money in my mailbox and just park the truck in there. It's like, okay. So
Sounds legit.
Yeah, it sounds legit. That's basically what we did. And first we got to find a place to launch the kayaks because there's a lot of private property there. So we approached a guy who owned a little stand where you could throw in the kayaks. He's like, let me call my boss. So he called his boss, and he's like, hey, my boss says $20. Or the guy that owns the property. He's like, $20, you can launch your kayaks here, which was in Key Largo. So we had to unload the kayaks, all our gear, drive the truck over to the long-term parking area, and then walk 3 miles back? 3 miles back to the kayaks. And then we launched them there. And I don't want to fast forward over the story of the thing, but when we got to Key West, now we got to get back to Key Largo to get my truck. So we left the kayaks in Key West at a hotel we were staying at and talked to the manager. He's like, yeah, just keep them out back. So we rode the Greyhound bus from Key West back to Key Largo, picked the truck up, drove it back to Key West, and then loaded up the kayaks and then headed home. That's a lot of logistics.
That's it, start to finish. Shane, how was it? Was it fun? Was it worth it?
Yes, it was a lot better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were good, every trip, there's good days and bad days. There's good things and bad things. Being out on the water in the sun, it's hot. It was a lot of work.
You're bikers, you're hikers. Were you kayakers before this?
She's done one trip with me. We went out to Lake Powell for kind of an experimental trip just with the kayaks. But I've kayaked on the Illinois River before and did that. And then the Florida Keys one. Shane's not a huge kayaker, but
no.
It's hard to sit that long. You're just sitting all day long, and it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
And
I like to be up and moving around.
If anybody's been to the Keys, which I'm sure some of your listeners have, it's I think 106 miles by road, but by kayak we judged it to be about maybe 130 or 140 miles by kayak.
How far can you go in a day? As far as you have to, obviously. You got to get to another place to stop, right? And how did you do that?
We tented.
You just stop? Were there public beaches, or are you just pulling up in somebody's backyard?
There's public beaches that you can't camp out, and you just wait till everybody leaves.
And then you camp there.
John, I get a lot of bitching because a lot of my trips are just on the fly. So the first day we're kayaking, and we probably do like 14 miles. And Shane's like, "Where are we camping at?" I'm like, I don't know. I ain't got it figured out yet. So we can't find a spot. It is getting later and later. It's starting to get dark, and she's getting tired. I was like, let's pull up to this public beach. So we pull in there, and we eat dinner. And there's a big sign right out front that says, no camping. She's like, what are we going to do now? And I'm like, we're just going to wait these people out. They're going to leave the beach about dark. We'll put the tent up. Everything will be fine. No problem. And that's what happened. We ended up putting the tent up on a no tenting beach, and then out at dark before light.
Well, you're not far from civilization when you're doing this. So was it more of a, I don't want to call it a relaxing vacation. You guys tend to work your way into a hard vacation, I think.
It was not relaxing at all.
But did you stop, Shane, like every night and have a decent meal, or?
No, we ate tuna.
No, we just ate like we were hiking.
Like if we were hiking, we took that food,
yeah,
and that's what we ate. Yes.
But like you said, we were never, like the night we camped on the beach illegally, the road was like right there. US 1 that runs down the Keys. Yeah. It was right there, like 1 block away. I mean, you could hear the traffic all night because the Keys is not a wide.
We could have gone somewhere and had something to eat, but we have to leave all of our gear because we're on kayaks. We have to, and we're really cheap on these trips. So we packed our food, and that's what we committed to doing. Was eating
like
our
she
food.
said, you just can't leave your gear, because we had our cooler sitting out on a table, and we were kind of in the shadows after it got dark, and a lady rode up on her bicycle. And she was going to steal our cooler. She seen our cooler sitting on the bench. She was going to steal it. And at the last second, she was coming up to the cooler. Well, she's seen us in the shadows and kind of turned away and like, oh, I see you now. I'm not going to steal your cooler. But we went down to the Keys. My big deal was the Keys is a beautiful place, but in other places, it's almost a third world country. Like
really?
We went to,
yes.
Oh, you wouldn't believe
marathon.
I'll let Shane tell the marathon story.
Yeah,
I was scared. You got to get up to the marathon story.
Yeah, really, we do. I went there, and after I really didn't research the place, but I was like, man, what kind of wildlife can we see? And I thought, man, I read where hammerhead sharks have nurseries through the mangroves. And the first day we're out, we're like kayaking, Shane's behind me. I was like, hey, there's a hammerhead shark swimming like right along the kayak. And it was only like 3 foot long, but it's right there.
It's a shark.
Yeah, it's
a hammerhead. There's one shark, there's a bigger shark.
Oh,
yes.
We saw our share of sharks. I mean, literally, like you see in the movies where they got their dorsal fin hanging out. Yeah, that happened all the time. Their dorsal fins of sharks were hanging out of the water.
Scared?
No, not at all.
Mm-mm.
Not at all.
You guys are tough. We're
tough. Yeah.
But we would paddle all day long. We took a few breaks here and there, but really getting out of the boat was nice. So if we could get up on some land where we could get out of the boat and walk around a little bit was nice. But, if you get tired, you just stop paddling and take a break.
I asked you before, like, people walked the Appalachian Trail. When you did that, people do that. It's set up for this. Is this journey set up for what you guys did? Do people do this?
There is a trail, and I'm sure you can YouTube it and watch videos, but we didn't see anybody. And actually, with the few people we talked to, basically they were like, "You're doing what?" And they were locals. They were locals down there. They're like, "Oh, you're kayaking from Key Largo to Key West?" Yeah, that's what we're doing. They're like, "Oh, okay." So it must not be done that often. Yeah. I'm sure you can.
We didn't see anyone else out there in kayaks.
No,
really.
No.
Kayaking the Keys. No.
So you saw some sharks. What you mentioned marathon. What happens in marathon?
I don't remember what day it was. We weren't sure. We had to keep crossing over from side to side. So we were
because of the wind. So we might be on the south side of the islands or the north side of the islands. And this day, coming up the marathon, we were on the north side of the island. We were just bucking a headwind. It basically looked like we're going nowhere.
But we wanted to go on the other side. However, we looked in advance and there were no hotel rooms available. We knew that this night we wanted to stay in a hotel room. So we had to cross over and
the north side of the islands.
It was horrible. It was so windy. I clearly thought there's no way we're going to make this. One of us is going to die. The kayaks are going to flip over. We were both ready to kill each other. The shark didn't attack us.
Yeah, these trips ain't like lovey-dovey. Let's just most time are like, bitching at each other. I got to sometimes stop and give the old motivational speech like, hey, we're never going to get there if you don't paddle. We'll just sit out here all night.
That's the motivational speech I get.
Grandpa Brad.
Right. I give Shane credit because, it's tough. It was windy.
It was hard that day.
And we were going to go to Marathon and stay at the Hyatt. We were going to camp out at the Hyatt in Marathon, which is a great place to camp. But we knew the next day was high winds too. And if you ever been to Florida Keys or 7 Mile Bridge, that's a really open area. And you don't want to get caught there with high winds and the current flowing out. I told Shane, I go, if we do it the next day, we're going to end up in Cuba. We're not going to be able to control the boats. It's too windy. The current's coming out, so we decided to stay 2 days. Well, one night, really, and then the whole next day at the Hilton. And that's where we get into the third world country because we're going to go out to eat, and Shane found this dive bar, known for their key lime pie. So we're going to walk over there, maybe a mile to walk over there.
Mile and a half.
Mile and a half. Not to promote my Facebook page, but you said it, so I thought I'd go with it.
Go with it.
But, we're going to walk over there. But once you get off the main drag in Marathon, it's... The first thing me and Shane said, we're like, wow, it kind of looks like we're back in Honduras.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, we were in Honduras, and it may have been better than off the main drag in Marathon. There was just garbage
If I'm scared of anything on any of these trips, it was Marathon, Florida.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty shady. And we're just following our...
what makes just shanty kind of living?
I think there were... shanty living... People just walking around the streets.
Chickens running everywhere.
Garbage
just thrown on empty lots.
Couches just thrown everywhere. People just sitting outside by the main road drinking.
Did a hurricane roll through this place and they never fixed it up?
We did see hurricane damage, but I'm not sure when the last hurricane rode through there. But the funny part about it is when you're out on the water,
it looks beautiful.
It's multi-million-dollar homes, and this is great, but that area there was really shady. It was a really shady area.
Yes, we were walking to the dive bar, and we had to go through like the shanty area, and some guys were playing a game on the ground. I think we were walking back and they were playing a game behind some fenced areas, and they were like trying to call me to come over there. I'm like, oh my God, just keep walking. Oh my God, we're going to get killed.
Every man for themselves.
Yeah.
Blondie's going to die.
Right.
Yeah. How long did this journey take you?
This was actually, we had planned it out to be a 10-day. I think it took 6.
Yeah,
just 6 days. Like I said, between 130 and 140 miles. But it's kind of like hiking. What do you got to do all day? You kayak, you paddle.
Would you do it again?
I don't know.
No?
No. I don't know. Yeah, I probably would.
At the end, whatever hardships, you do like it.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
I do enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I don't get away that much to go do anything. And a lot of people give us crap because they're like, so you hiked 250 miles on your vacation? That's what you call a vacation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Well, I look at the two of you, and then I look at me, and I go, okay, well, they're in a lot better shape than I am. So, yeah.
No, I enjoyed it, and it was beautiful when we were out on the water. It was beautiful, and we saw so many starfish. A lot of the places we were in more shallow water, so you could see the bottom. When we did 7 Mile Bridge,
Conch.
you almost died.
I picked up a conch.
This one area, that's all you saw was conch everywhere. Just this one area.
Yeah.
Before that, after that, didn't see one conch.
Yeah. It's like 6
Really?
inches deep, and I looked down and I was like, is that conch? And Shayne looked down. She's like, oh my God, they're everywhere. There's
The
conch
place was
everywhere.
littered with conch everywhere. It was
just-
the neatest thing.
Just picked them off the bottom. They were still in there and everything. I don't know if it was a protected area. Probably weren't supposed to pick them up.
You said a minute ago he almost died. Well, let's go back to
Oh my God. We go to.
Well, so we get to Marathon. We decide we're going to stay at the Hyatt for the night. The next day we go out. We're going to leave. It's horrible. The wind is too much. There's no way. We had problems just getting our boats into the area to park them at the Hyatt. There was no way we were going to get out of there. The way it was, there's just no way we could get out.
The wind was blowing
just
us into the docks. Like as we were coming in the day before, the wind was just blowing our kayaks into the docks.
It was really hard
We couldn't
to
control them. The wind was too much.
So we stay another day. Well, then the next day it was better, but we're just like we've got to go. We can't stay another day. We're on a time limit. Shayne's got a job, so
Yeah, even if we're gonna die, we gotta go. We gotta go.
So we leave, and when you get to 7 Mile Bridge, we're gonna cross over now because you can clearly see on the other side of the bridge it is calm as can be. We're near death on this side of the bridge. We just have to get to the other side of the bridge. So we're crossing over to get to the other side of the bridge. Well, you have to go under the bridge. Well, you have to time it just right, and you have to paddle your ass off so that you don't hit the
Pylons.
pylons.
Yeah.
Yes. So he goes first, and I'm still trying to time it and trying to decide where I'm going to go. He takes off, doesn't time it right. He gets thrown up against one of the pylons.
My kayak got sideways on me. It threw me up against the pylon. Luckily, I got it turned, but I turned it the wrong way. I turned it back into the current. So I had to paddle right back to where I came from and try it again. And then she goes through and gets right through. She goes, that's not that bad.
I was like, what was so hard about that?
Yeah, but I think it was because I had all the weight in my boat. I had the tent, I had the cooler. Man, my kayak got sideways, and I just about lost it. Because you get against the pylon, that's when you get sucked under, because the outflow current was really, it was really flowing through there fast.
But I think on that trip, we only stayed in a hotel with a Hyatt those 2 nights.
Yeah.
The rest of the time we tented, and that was fun.
Then you get to the end, Greyhound bus. Then you had to drive back to get your kayaks before you could leave, right?
Yes.
It was quite a day. But there is one story that people might not realize. If you ever decide to do this trip, there's a little insect called the sand gnat. And if you go down to Mexico and you're beachy, I've never experienced them in Mexico and other beaches I've been to around the Caribbean. But in Florida, and I'm sure there are other places, a thing called the sand gnat. And we didn't have much trouble with them camping till the last night. I think because it was
along
windy.
the way, though, you kept complaining that your ankles were getting bit by these bugs. And they didn't bother me at all. I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not having any problems at all. Well, so our last night there, it was the longest day. Oh, the naked guy.
Yeah, well, that was before the stand. Yeah, I want to tell the naked guy story. We go by Key West Naval Air Station, and we're tired. We're looking for a place to camp, and we're real close to shore, and we're going along. And Shayne's like, "You see the naked guy over there?" I'm like, I just blow it off because I think she's bullshitting me. I was like, "No, I didn't see the naked guy." She's like, "There's a naked guy in the swing right there."
I took a picture of him.
There's a naked guy living on the beach.
Yes.
Swinging in a swing. And we were so close. So you could tell he was like probably living there. We had a little camp set up, just hanging out on the backside.
Everything was swinging.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, at that time, we were looking for a place to stop and camp. I'm like, there is no way we are camping there. There's no way. I'm not going to get murdered by a naked guy. Not going to happen. I'll paddle a little bit further. Yeah. So we went up. We finally found a spot, set up tent. I think he was complaining a little bit about the sand fleas or gnats, whatever they were. Went to bed, got up in the morning.
They're all outside the tent.
They're all over our tent.
Yeah, on the insect netting of the tent. They're just, and I told Shane, they're just waiting for us. They're just waiting for us to get out. And you think mosquitoes are bad? Sand gnats are 100 times worse, and they're relentless. So we get out.
We're making a plan. Yeah. Okay, how are we going to do this? These things are going to attack us, and we only have minutes before we lose a lot of blood.
Yeah, really? Or they drive us crazy.
Oh, it was horrible.
And we're usually really good. We break down our camp. We fold our tent up.
We have a system.
So, yeah.
We have it all.
We literally got out of the tent, started to fold that. We were just like, just throw the tent in the boat, throw everything in the boat. And dude, they were up our nostrils, in our eyes, everywhere.
We had to run out into the water and just try to get water on us. Well, then there's sharks out in the water. There's sharks swimming around.
We actually hopped in the kayaks, threw the tent in the cargo bay, everything in the cargo bay. I pushed Shane out. She's like, "There's a shark in the water." There was. There's like a 4-foot shark in the water. I was like, "Just go, just go." And
I would rather take a shark attack as opposed to this sand flea attack.
4 minutes ago, I said, "Would you do this again?" Sounds great.
Yes.
You know what's funny, John? You put up with that. It was our last day. 2 hours later, we're in a hotel showering, and an hour after that, we're on the main drag in Key West eating burgers and drinking a beer. So, you put up with this stuff for 15 minutes, and
it wasn't so bad.
Yeah. When you're drinking a beer and eating a burger at a bar on Key West, you're like, them sand nets, they weren't that bad.
Well, there you go. So that's kayaking the Keys.
Yes.
That's another one of Shane and Brad's wild adventures. Let's move on to another one.
Yes.
Vietnam, the other side of the world. Why? What? You biked Vietnam. I'll let you tell what you biked, but why Vietnam? What was the calling to Vietnam? Did you have family there that in the war?
Shane's dad was in the Vietnam War, so she might have family
My
there.
mom says that I have siblings over there.
Okay.
Yeah, Shane's dad is a Vietnam vet, so she may have some half sisters or brothers over there. It's possible.
You recognize anyone? Or?
No.
No? Okay. So what was the calling?
I think on that one, I literally called Shane at work one day and told her, I was like, "What do you think about cycling Vietnam?" And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "I think we can do this." I had watched a video of, I think, a couple Canadians that did it, and it just grew from there. It was like, all right, let's get the plane tickets. We did a little research. You can't just go there on a passport. You got to have a tourist visa, which is like 30, 60, 90 days. We decided to do the 30-day or 31-day. And it just grew from there, and we did a little research. We're like, okay, there's this bike store called Mr. Saigon Bike Store. And Shane's like, I'll email the guy. We wanted to buy bikes. And he's like, no, I rent a rental thing. I think Shane had contact with him maybe a couple times and gave him the dates to be there. And the guy's like, I'll have your bikes ready for you. Just show up at the shop, but we'll set you up. We just gave him our height, kind of weight kind of deal, so he could set us up with the correct bikes. And that's just kind of how.
Where is this? Where do you go?
We fly out of St. Louis, go down to Dallas, and then we got a connection flight to South Korea. And on previous What's That Like, I always say you got to be lucky, because we fly out of Dallas, our plane delayed 2 hours. I'm like, we're never going to make our connection flight. I said, we're going to have like 30 minutes to get off the plane. We're in Seoul, South Korea. We have no idea about the layout of the airport.
We don't speak the language.
Yeah, we don't speak the language. So we land in Seoul, and we only carry backpacks, so we don't have to get luggage. We just got 2 backpacks with the minimalist amount of stuff we could use for a whole month of being in Vietnam. So we grab our backpacks. I was like, we got 30 minutes. We're coming down the ramp, and Shane's like, I think I seen our name on that board back there, So I'm like, really? She goes, let's go look. So we go back and look, and there's our name, and there's a lady waiting for us. We show them her passport. She's like, follow me right now. You got to go. Your flight's going to leave. So she basically ran us. We ran through the airport with her, and she took us to Vietnam Airlines and basically got to plane 10 minutes before it took off, and we're on our way to Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon, if you want to call it that.
Now, I can't remember the geography. Is that north or south?
That's South Vietnam.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're in the south.
Yes.
And you're going to ride north?
To Hanoi.
Yes.
To Hanoi. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is about 1,200 miles.
1,200.
1,200, yes.
Okay. This isn't a light effort.
Oh, no. This is a journey. If you want to call it a journey, this is a journey.
And we got 30 days to do it. Our visa's only good for 30 days.
Yes.
So we have 30 days to get this done.
Yes. So we land in Saigon, and
We had booked a hostel. It was like 9 o'clock
didn't-
at night. We booked a hostel. So we caught a ride, got to the hostel. It was late already. I think we just crashed. And then got up the next day, walked around Saigon. We were supposed to meet Ty at the bike shop at 10 o'clock, I believe, in the morning to pick up the bikes. So we got the bikes, rode them around a little bit to make sure everything was okay, and then just hung out in Saigon the rest of the day. Got up Saturday morning and took off for our 1,200-mile bike ride to Hanoi.
Do you speak a lick of Vietnamese?
Zero.
No. We got back up a little bit about the airport. When you land at the airport, I knew off the bat we were going to have a serious culture clash from America to Vietnam. And right off the plane, it was like a real culture clash. We get there. We don't speak the language. Not one lick of Vietnamese. And
You can't even speak English, Vietnamese.
Yes.
Believe me,
Yes.
John, I hear that all the time. And other people, when they talk to me, my friend out in Scottsdale, my buddy Doug, he's like, dude, you've got the worst Midwestern accent I've ever heard.
It's horrible.
I've just learned to live with it. But no, we go to the airport. And
I went to the same school.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, so did I, but I can speak English.
I'm doing just fine. I have my own talk show. How about that?
I took English course, I think sophomore English twice, and barely made it out. I mean, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I barely made it out. But no,
You're currently unemployed. What can I tell you?
exactly.
Right.
Living the dream. But no, the culture class. And one thing I always tell Shane when we walk off a plane and we do this stuff, I was like, we always have a little talk like, hey, where we're going, what we're going to do. I was like, always act like we know where we're going and what we're doing. Even though we're lost and we're going to be totally confused, just act like we know where we're going and we're going to do this. So I thought it would be tough to get. You're entering a communist country, being I'm not, not that they're bad people or not. I thought the visa process would be, they'd really look us over, get in our bags. We literally walked through immigration. I mean, the guy just looked at us, stamped our thing, and we're out of the airport. And there's like 2,000 people with signs and motorcycles beeping. We're a little bit overwhelmed. We had been on a plane for a day, and I'm like, okay, we need to find a cab. And Shane's like, there's a sign over there.
But there are different stories, though, to that, because we were trying to decide, as far as the visa, you can wait until you get there to get a visa, or you can get one in advance. Getting the visa was, I think you were gone, and that was my job, was to get the visas. It was quite complicated because I had to call, where was the embassy?
In Washington, D.C.
In Washington, D.C., so I had to call to get the information. Not all the information was online. So getting the visa was very difficult. You just have to send it off. It wasn't that much, though. I think it was
like $80.
Yeah.
You got to pay for shipping back and forth. It wasn't bad.
But when we got there, I'm actually glad that we got the visas in advance because, one, we did read that when you get there, if you try to get a visa, they're going to try to get you for more money. And two, the line to get the visa when you get there was ridiculous. There was a lot of people waiting to get their visas there. The one thing we did do, though, when I go on these trips, I have to make sure that my phone works because I do communicate with my kids while I'm gone. So while we were at the airport, he decides, let's go ahead and get the SIM for your phone. Well, I guess the guy tried to put the SIM card in my phone, and it didn't work, and it got all messed up, and then my phone didn't work at all for the night. We left, it wouldn't work.
It actually locked the phone up. But that's another funny story of the first day of just kind of the stuff you got to go through to get going on the trip.
Yes.
But back to the finding the cab, Shane sees a sign. It's written in English. It's like cab. So we go up there, and like we don't speak the language. The lady speaks perfect English. She's like, you guys need a cab? yeah, we need a cab. Here, give us the address. So we had the address of the hostel we were staying at. No problem. Just went out on the thing. The lady led us to another guy. He gives a cab, and before you know it, we're in Saigon driving through the city, heading to a hostel that's in a back alley place somewhere. We don't know where we're at. It's in Saigon somewhere. And just the lights and the motorcycles and everything, it was just really, like I said, a culture class. We were just a little overwhelmed at first, I will say.
It's a lot different.
Yeah,
sure.
and it's night. It's dark. We don't know where we're going.
We've been traveling for
A day.
24 hours or something.
You're on the
like
other
that.
side of the world.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
time's shifted totally.
Yes, 13 hours.
Your day is now your night.
Yes.
And I can only imagine I don't like it when I get off a plane in Des Moines and I don't know where I'm going, and here you guys are in Vietnam. So you get to the bike shop. Ty, you said his
Yes.
name was Ty, has your bikes ready to go, and then you go. How does this work?
Well, we get the bikes, and like Shane said, we test them out. And before we had left, I downloaded a map called Maps Me. It's a free app you can get in maybe 176 countries around the world. So I downloaded Vietnam, and it's got all the roads, the provinces, states, whatever. And we're going to go down, leave Saigon, and we're going to go down to Vung Tau, where Shane's dad was stationed during the Vietnam War. So we're going to ride like southeast down to Vung Tau. And lo and behold, believe it or not, I didn't really know how to read the Maps Me that good because I was doing the addition wrong in the miles. So Shane's like, how many miles are we going to do down to Vung Tau?
Mile and a half.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? It's 60 miles. But something about Vietnam that hits you, we're coming out of February weather. It's 6 degrees when we leave. We get to Vietnam. It's 90 degrees. It's 100% humidity. Just for your body to get used to that in 24 hours. So I think it's 60 miles down to Vung Tau. It was probably maybe like 120 miles down to Vung Tau. So about halfway down there, I figured out.
It was a great first day.
About halfway down there, I figured out that I was like, oh boy, I was like, I really added this up wrong, but I'm just going to keep telling Shane it's 60 miles. And she keeps telling me, she's like, are we going to be there yet? We've been biking all day. Hey, I'm reading the map. It says 60 miles. I whatever, whatever. So we actually get there and she's like, that's the longest 60 miles we've ever did. And I was like, I got to confess, I totally read the map wrong. Like we did over like 100.
First day.
First day out in 90-degree weather.
Now, mind you, I don't get to train like Brad trains. Brad trains every single day. He bikes, he walks, he trains every day, all day. If I can squeeze in, workout here or there, whatever my schedule allows. And the first day we're there, and it takes me usually about a week, I would say, before I have my biking legs or my hiking legs. I struggled.
He killed you.
It was tough.
He killed you.
It was tough.
I mean, who can't just go from work and start biking 100 miles a day? I mean,
Exactly.
that's not bad.
Now, I would say, when we've talked about your other trips and you say you went through this state or that state, people automatically get an idea geography-wise because it's here in America. Talking about Vietnam, I would venture to guess 99% of the people listening to this have no idea the geography. Did you have... Obviously, you researched it online, but as we kind of walk through this journey with you through Vietnam, I guess my questions more stem because you could say, well, I went to this town and this town, but that has no reference.
Right.
You did 100 miles in a day. Let's just kind of cut to the whole journey, 1,200 miles.
Yes.
How many days did it take you? You said you had a 31-day visa.
It took us probably 26 of that 31 days. Yes, because we had like 5 days at the end.
And you have any 0 days in between?
Yes.
Or?
We took 2 0 days. One
Okay.
in Nha Trang, Vietnam.
that's
All
right.
this is along the coast of Vietnam. We didn't go inland. We were all along the coast, along the South China Sea. So at Nha Trang, we took 1 0 day, and then the city of Hue, we took 1 day there.
Okay. Obviously, 50 years since the Vietnam War. What's it like being too American? And you look like you really look American.
But
in Vietnam, how did that? What was the you've mentioned culture clash? You're not used to it, but was there a cultural thing between Americans and Vietnamese?
That was one of the hesitations I had going there. I'm like, how are the Vietnamese people we meet going to accept 2 Americans riding bicycles? And I got really my answer like on the second day. Shayne had biked up probably a mile, 2 miles ahead of me. And I'm the photographer, everything on the trip. And I'm taking some photos, and I started biking again. And I just have this feeling like somebody's riding a moped up alongside of me. So I turn around, and this guy in just pure English goes, "You American?" I mean, a Vietnamese guy. He goes, "You from America?" Yeah, we're from America. I'm from America. You couldn't see Shayne. He goes, me, #1 fan of America. #1 fan of America. He must have said it like 15 times. Me, #1 fan of America. So I stopped, took a picture of him. He goes, "Yeah, my brother, he lives in California." So right then and there, I was like, okay, this is going to be pretty cool. They accepted it. Then it was funny because I met up with Shayne, and I was like, that guy stopped me back there. He's the #1 fan of America. And then we ride through this little fishing village, and he's like on the corner with his wife waving at us as we ride by.
Come see these two crazy Americans.
Not that we both weren't hits because I tell Shayne we were almost celebrities because a lot of these people, I don't think they've ever seen Americans because, 75% of the Vietnamese population was born after the Vietnam War. Wow, so yeah. I don't think, and not that there's bad blood there, I just don't think that a lot of Americans get out on bicycles and ride through Vietnam. And Shayne was especially popular because of the blonde hair and everything. She stood out really bad, and a lot of guys wanted pictures with her. Guys on motorcycles would pull up, take pictures of her. I was like, hey, what about me? Am I chopped liver here, or what's up?
Yep.
Yes.
He wanted me to dye my hair before we went.
Just to fit in a little.
I knew it was going to stand out.
Did you ever feel uncomfortable, Shayne?
Only one time.
There
was one creepy guy that would not leave us alone, and I thought for sure he was going to kill him and then
kidnap you.
Yes, it was really scary. I was very upset about it.
And we were on a road that wasn't much traveled.
No.
And the guy had pulled up, and he wanted a picture with Shayne, but we, through just mental mistake on his part, we took the picture with Shayne's phone. So he's like, can't speak the language, but he was,
he couldn't speak English at all. It was horrible.
He was being nice. And then he took off, and then he came back because he realized he didn't get the photo of Shayne on his cell phone. We had it on our cell phone. So he just kept bothering her, following her, and showing us his phone. And she just didn't want to stop, which was a smart thing, And then he wanted to show me something, so I was dumb enough to pull over. But it was kind of a cool view. He wanted to show me this view, which was just off to the side road. And Shayne went down the hill and took off. And then I followed her, and he come by, and then, I don't know, he probably followed us for a good
forever.
5 miles.
It felt like
just
forever.
Wouldn't leave us alone. But I don't want him to look bad on all the Vietnamese people because we met nothing but kindness the whole trip.
Yes.
How was the food? You
Amazing.
talk about I can't wait to get a burger on previous adventures.
So
and
here's our day. If we get up in the morning, we might have a snack, a granola bar or something. We did take some granola bars with us. So we don't eat much in the morning. We'll stop in the middle of the day just to have a pop and a bag of chips or something, which was a lot of work to get a pop. And they don't keep pop or soda cold, so we want ice in a glass with a pop, and they typically sell them in the can. We won't drink anything out of the bottle. It has to be a can when we're in Vietnam because we just don't trust that it's really what the bottle says.
Okay.
I think people refill bottles over there, so we would only drink out of a can. Well, we would go, and most of the people did not speak English. The people who did speak English wanted to speak English with us. That was kind of cool. A lot of the places we went to, if there were older people there, they would have to call the younger people who could speak English to speak with us. But we would just always get in a bind where we couldn't get a pop, a glass, and ice. So we finally learned to take a picture. So first I took a picture of a glass of pop with ice, but then everybody thought it was coffee. So then I had to they put the ice in a bowl. So I took a picture of the ice in a bowl, the glass, and the pop. Then we were able to
Okay.
So when we would go somewhere to take a break, then I would just show them the picture of what we're wanting. And then it was super easy.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Ice wasn't easy to come by. Everybody had ice, but they delivered ice like they probably did in the United States in the old days.
Yeah.
We literally seen like motorcycles with big blocks of ice on them, or like burlap bags full of ice. So you had the ice delivery guy would deliver to all these shops, and it was
Really?
it was really neat. Back to Shayne's phone for a minute. It was kind of a funny story. Her phone got locked up from the SIMS card. So we took it to the local phone store, which is just like your AT&T store, But they couldn't do anything with us, so they sent us down the street. They're like, how we communicate. I think the guy spoke English.
He did.
He sent us down the street, and I guess this guy was, I don't know if he was a shady guy who broke into phones or whatever, but the exchange rate there is like crazy. So I send Shayne in the store. I go, let's see if the guy can do it. So she goes, talks to the guy. She comes out. She's like, it's going to be 150,000 dong if he's going to unlock my phone. I was like, that's like $6. She was, oh, is it really? It just sounded like a lot of money. I was like, no, it's like the exchange rate is like $1 at the time we were there. $1 is 24,000 some dong. So she come out and she said, should I tell him we're going to do it? I was like, yeah, it's like $6. Go in and tell him we'll do it. And he was just amazed that we were going to pay like 150,000 for this guy. He's like, you going to do it? Like, yeah, we have no choice. We got to do it. So we just whipped out $150,000. This is all I got.
$6.
Yeah,
right.
150,000. Yeah.
You said the food was amazing though.
So at the end of the day,
yeah.
we did not tent in Vietnam. You just can't. There's nowhere to tent, and I'm not even sure it would be safe to tent there.
And plus, it's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot.
So after riding all day, we do want to take a shower, and we do want to be in some air conditioning and relax. So we would find a hotel, no reservations. We would just go to where we're going to go and look for. They're called HomeAways, hotels, or guest houses. So we would find our place, get cleaned up, and then it's food. So we would just go out and. A lot of street food. We really wanted to eat street food. We didn't want to go to restaurants. We didn't want to spend a lot of money. So we wanted to do it on the cheap. And the food was amazing. What did we eat? Duck?
Duck, chicken, pho.
Pho, yeah.
Pho was the best.
What is?
Well, I think Americans call it pho, but it's pho. It's just the noodle soup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think Americans say pho, but pho actually means street in Vietnamese. Pho means the noodle soup. I learned that while I was there.
And if we survived eating street food in Vietnam, I don't think anything's going to kill us because the culture clash again was like they would feed you and then they would do the dishes right out in the street, the curb, the street, just wash them out in the street.
Yeah.
And dump the water down the curb.
So when you go over there, I mean, you worried about disease and yellow fever, and you work in the medical field, right?
Yes.
So this has got to be at the top of your mind. I mean, did you get shots? I mean, what did you do?
No, I took Z-Pack with me.
Yeah. I didn't get these shots either.
We actually, you know what? At first, I didn't really pay that much attention to it. I didn't realize how unsanitary it was, and then we ended up in Hue. We went out to dinner. We stayed at a guest house.
Guest house.
In Hue, which means we stayed in someone's house and just rented a room. The lady did our laundry. She made us breakfast in the morning, and we ended up staying there 2 days. Well, that night, she told us where to go to eat, and so we went to the main drag, and we found a street food, a stand with literally duck hanging inside. It was already cooked. Duck, they had rice, all kinds of food. So we're like, oh, this looks great. At the end of the day, we really eat a lot of food. The people looked at us like we were freaks of nature because of the amount of food we would eat. And beer, you had to have beer. So we go to this place and we ask the guys if they had beer. And everyone there is so little, so you don't sit at a normal size table. You sit at kiddie tables and the kiddie chairs. So we go there, we asked them. First question was, do you have beer? Yeah, we have beer. So they run next door and get beer for us because they didn't have beer.
Yeah.
So they set up our table, they get our beer. So we asked for glass of ice. Yeah. So I'm facing this way away from where they are. Brad tells me later, there's something over there. It's their community water. Literally, they have buckets of water sitting out with cups. And anyone can go up to them at any time, dip the cup in, take a drink, and put the cup back. I have a problem with this.
I understand.
That's
You're making me nervous just talking about it.
At least it's one thing. It's ice water, but that's where they got the ice for our beer at. They literally they stuck their hands in the ice bucket, bare hands. And
we
grabbed
drank
the ice
out of the community cups. with ice from the community water. I did not find out about that till later. I'm like, oh my God, I am clearly going to get some sort of a parasite or something.
But neither one of you at the end? Nothing?
Neither one of us got sick. No. I don't know how we didn't get sick, especially when someone ate raw meat.
Yes, that's another story for another day. We're not going to tell that.
Okay. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we
are.
So,
I've got to tell the story because you're really going to make me look bad here.
You did look bad.
I think we all need to know.
It was like our third day out, and
we're still learning.
Yeah, we're still learning.
We still don't know how a lot of this works.
Yes, and we go to this place. Everything's open air, just right next to the street. And we go in this place, and I don't know what to order. We're both hungry. We're starting to crab at each other, and we get a couple beers. That's Susan over, and Shane's like, "I'm just trying to translate the menu." So she ends up translating. So we get the meat. They bring like pork chops out to the thing, but they're raw. But there's no place to cook them. They didn't bring us a grill. They're not cooked. And
I said, Brad, there's no way we're eating raw meat. Okay. Don't eat the raw meat. I know you're hungry, but don't eat the raw meat. I will ask her to cook the meat because I had a translator on my phone. Yeah. So the girl and I, and it's a young girl, but she did not speak English. She and I are going back and forth on the translator, and she said that, one, they served goat. Were we okay with eating goat?
That's what we had. Goat.
Perfect.
That's right.
Yes, goat is wonderful. We'll eat it. And so she brings it out, brings just this raw meat out with dips and or marinades, whatever it was. And he's so hungry, he actually took a piece of the raw meat, dipped it in, and went to take a bite. This little girl is walking over with a grill so we can grill the meat. She looks at him like, what in the heck is
crazy
he?
Americans.
Yes, crazy Americans. You're right.
Just eating raw meat.
I'm like, oh my God.
John,
you grill your own food there.
Yeah.
They bring you a little grill to your table and you grill your own food. So
I told Shane, I go, the meat's got to be smoked or something. It can't just be raw. I mean,
it was raw.
Yeah, and we were the only in the restaurant, so there was nobody.
You didn't get sick?
No, there was nobody to play off of. Like
you guys are crazy.
And whenever you order beer there, typically, if you order beer, they bring you a 24-pack of beer and just set it right by your table. That's how they serve their beer there.
We probably spent more money on beer than food. And maybe motels included in our hotels.
Yes.
Before we got going, you said we had to talk about the exchange rate. You mentioned what it was, but Shane, you actually said we lived like kings in Vietnam.
Yes.
Describe what you meant.
Oh, everything is just so cheap there. It's the hotels were $13 a night.
Oh, really cheaper than that. A lot of the just nice ones were like $8 a night.
I mean, it didn't cost us anything. If we stopped to get a pop and snacks,
25 cents for a soda.
It was crazy.
In terms of your overall trip to go over there, you rented bikes, right?
Correct.
Yes.
You took very minimal with you. All you were doing was eating and sleeping and drinking along the way. Plane tickets are plane tickets. What do you think just being in Vietnam for 30 days cost you?
Oh, believe me, I know. I kept a running tab. For 30 days and live like kings, $740.
Oh, jeez Louise.
That's it.
That includes hotels, beer,
food,
everything. Everything. Yep. That doesn't include the bikes we rented. And like you said, doesn't include the airline tickets. It was like $740. And we stayed a couple times at like 5-star hotels, $34 a night.
That's when we were in the beach resort.
Yeah, top of the line hotels, just $35.
So we don't have to cover what it's like to cycle distances. We've done this before. We've covered the eating, the drinking, the hygiene, the language barrier. You finished this thing, and if I remember right, you had kind of a nice boat ride, and you kind of ended this really nicely, right?
We did.
So tell me about the end.
So after we finished the bike ride, then we took a bus. We spent a few days in Hanoi. Then we ended up. He really wanted to go to the Chinese border because we were so close. So we ended up taking a bus ride to Sapa, which is kind of in the mountains.
Yes, in North Vietnam, far North Vietnam, right up along the Chinese border.
And the buses there, everything there is so different. Like here we have the quick trips and everyone's business is in front of their home. So when you go through a town, except for when you get to the bigger cities, but when you go through a town, you're going by people's homes and their house front is their business. So if they're a snack shop, if they're a restaurant, if they're a bakery, anything is in the front of their home. So when you go in to, like, we would stop, pull over, go to get a pop, people would come out of their homes and get us our drinks or food or
Look at blonde
whatever.
girl.
Yeah. And the people who could
that got
speak
you fast
English
service.
would come out and they were so excited to see Americans. I think a lot of these towns that we went through, a lot of those people have probably never seen white people before. I mean, we went through some really villages almost. But the people who did speak English really wanted to talk to us. They were excited about talking to us. But once we got to, the bus, that's where I was going. So we leave Hanoi, we get on a bus to go to Sapa. And on the way there, it was a normal bus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So on the way there, we just rode a normal bus. Go to Sapa. We were there for a couple of days.
We were there like a day and a half.
We ended up, in Sapa, though, that's where the village people, I don't want to say village people.
I don't think that's where the group came out. But, I mean, if you want to go with
if
you want to go with that, that's cool. I don't think they were from
The
Vietnam.
people of that village.
Yes.
No, but they're like Indian, more, what do you call them?
They started to change more over to Chinese. I would say they were more.
But they dressed in
traditional garb.
Yes, traditional gear and what have you. It was really neat up in Sapa. But we ended up renting scooters to go down to the Chinese border. So we took one scooter because I wasn't comfortable riding a scooter there. They drive like maniacs there. So we took one scooter, went to the Chinese border, and when we got to the Chinese border, you would have thought we were celebrities. We were the only white people at the Chinese border, and there was a line of people to take pictures of us. We were like the thing at the Chinese border. It was so hilarious.
Yeah.
We had a blast. We had so much fun.
Yeah, so there's two Americans on a moped at the Chinese border. It's pretty cool because you pull right up, and I can't remember the name of the river that divides North Vietnam from China, but you just right up to the border. And actually, we would have loved to went into China, but you got to get a visa, and that's a 3-week process.
But we could see all the products going back and forth from the border, just bringing boxes and boxes of stuff across the border.
And we actually got to take the moped for several miles down the Vietnamese-Chinese border. There's a road that runs right along the border, and we got to go several miles down there and look over into China. It was pretty cool. I mean, it's not something you do every day.
No, certainly not. No.
Yeah.
And you got to be celebrities.
Yes.
Yeah. Shane was really a celebrity. I mean, like a big-time celebrity.
After one person asked to take our picture, then the line started forming.
Yeah.
And then everybody...
Did they think you were actually like somebody famous or just...
Just Americans.
Just
I
Americans.
think it was Americans.
Yep.
They probably just did never see Americans at that border crossing there.
Yeah.
It was cool. We had fun.
Yeah.
And then you took like a cruise through the, what do they call that? That ocean with all the mountains that come out.
Hong Long Bay.
Yeah. And which are beautiful pictures.
That was beautiful.
If you go back to mile and a half, check
Yes.
those out. It's just awesome looking.
Very, Sapa and Hong Long Bay were very touristy compared to the other part of the trip. The other part of the trip, it was just me and her, no guide, just biking through Vietnam. The Sapa was more controlled, more tourists there.
And when we took the cruise in Hong Long Bay, actually we were on a boat with how many? Like
people.
18 other people from around the world. There were a couple guys there from Poland, 4 guys from Poland, a guy from New Zealand, a couple girls from Australia, some people from Taiwan, Chile. We talked to the people from Chile.
Yeah.
There's a diverse group of people on the boat.
One
it was
thing
fun.
when we were there, it was Tet, the Tet holiday, which is the Vietnamese New Year. And it's like a 10-day festival. So it was really cool to be there, especially on, I guess, the highest day of Tet. Like everybody's got like these little orange trees on their motorcycles, and the whole towns are all decorated like for the New Year's, and it was really cool. It was really interesting.
And you would not believe what people transport on their scooters.
Oh my gosh,
everything.
Yeah, I've seen you just like the pictures, the basket stacked high with a chicken and
crazy.
a goat and a couple of chairs, and you know, whatever
Everything.
else.
You can move a whole house
Yeah.
on a scooter in Vietnam.
It was so cool in the morning. I liked riding in the early morning. That was my favorite time because everybody was going to the central market of like the next town. So you would see people riding bikes with just bananas on the back, maybe baby pigs, chickens. I mean, everything you could imagine was going to the next town up.
Yeah.
Farmer's market, basically.
Yeah.
But that was every day. And butchering chickens right out on the sidewalk, you know, and the meat shop was right on the sidewalk. They'd have a whole cow, and they were just cutting meat off it, whatever section you wanted.
I don't want to minimize a 1,200-mile bike ride at all. So that's obviously tough. You did 100 in one day on your first day, you said, Shane.
It was a joy.
But this seems more like an adventure than an endurance struggle.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Oh,
Yes.
very accurate.
Yes.
Yes, it really, the miles went by quicker than we wanted to, really, because all day long your head's just on a swivel. I mean, you're like, what are they doing over there, you know? And one thing that we did pass up, like rice
Fields.
rice fields from Saigon all the way to Hanoi, and what we've seen from the road biking, all planted by hand, no machinery, and I can't believe the ladies and the guys who did that. It was just bend over work all day long. And we never got tired of seeing it. I mean, it was just right out of National Geographic. Like you see. It was amazing.
I asked you after the Key West trip, would you do it again? I'll ask you here.
I actually wanted to stay. I had more time than Shane. I would have done Laos and Cambodia and Thailand all in one. I would have stayed for 6 months. It was that amazing.
Well, it only would have cost you about another $800.
Right,
It seems
exactly.
like, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the trip. I would absolutely. I don't know that I would do Vietnam again because we don't like to repeat, but I like him.
do something
Yes.
similar
Yes.
in that type
Yes.
of a part of the world.
Yes.
We talk about 50 years since the war. Was there? What did you see? I mean, from a history, you always say he's talking history. What kind of history did you come out?
To start, like we went to the city of Hue. That was, I just mentioned Tet. That was one of the main
Tet
Tet offensive was
Yeah.
that they took over the North Vietnamese communists took over the city of Hue,
Yeah.
and you could still go to the citadel that they took over, and there's still bullet holes in the walls. And we did a guest stay, and we were just in a neighborhood, and I got online and Googled it, and I could see like how tore up that neighborhood was during the Tet offensive, you know, and read a little bit about it, and I'm like, wow, here we are just walking through history around this citadel, because I think that was mainly a Marine to take back the citadel, and it was just I would get online and just read while we're there. I'm like, they were literally going down the street fighting house to house, you know, the U.S. Marines and Vietnamese communists, and the whole town. I think like 75% of the town was destroyed, and almost all of the citadel was destroyed.
Yeah.
But the funny story about Hue was we couldn't find the guest house, and badminton is really big over there. Everybody plays badminton, so we're like riding through this just residential area, and the people already know they're Americans. They're pointing out to us where the guest house is. They're pointing it. And it was funny because the guest house was right across the street from Communist Party headquarters. So there's a big sickle and hammer on there.
Wow.
And like, it was right out our door. We literally, the door we had to go, I was like, there's Communist Party headquarters right there.
Jeez Louise.
But yeah, walking through history. And then we went to Da Nang, to the famous China Beach. In Da Nang, yeah, went to there, walked down China Beach, and in Da Nang, I think Da Nang was like the main headquarters for the American effort there. We did ride by the old base there, and I didn't point out to Shane there was like a bunker there that I did see, but it was all abandoned, like a guard post type deal. But being in Da Nang was really cool.
A lot of people thought we were Russians.
Wow.
Yeah.
Especially in Nha Trang. Nha Trang was would probably be the Cancun for Russians, I would say. The Russian people, a lot of Russians and a lot of white Russians in Nha Trang.
Yeah.
And they thought we were Russian, but
You said your dad was over there. Was it kind of special for you to be back over there? Or not back over there, but be there? Just did you feel that connection or no? Or
No, my dad was very scared for me. He did not want me to go to Vietnam, and he was afraid I was going to get eaten by a tiger or something.
Yeah.
Yes. He tried to talk me out of going to Vietnam many, many times.
yeah, he had actually stopped me out in the driveway after we did the trip. And Shane's guy, his name's Kurt. He's a super nice guy. Always nice to me. He stopped me on the driveway. He's like, Brad, this is really a bad idea. You just shouldn't go. It's dangerous. It's that. I was like, don't worry, Kurt. I got it. I'll take care of Shane while we're there. I guess,
But he only knows Vietnam, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that now.
Yeah,
nothing at all. Yes.
It's very old fashioned, but very modern. Like Saigon and Hanoi are very modern. And where we biked out in the smaller villages, that's where I think you get the real Vietnam from. But one thing I will say about Vietnam, I was highly disappointed in, is it's very dirty, very trash. You think America, they blame us for throwing plastic bottles away. And if you ever look on a list, Vietnam's high on the list for trash. Oh, there's just trash everywhere.
Yeah.
And we were riding across a bridge one day, and Shane always hates it because I stop and take photos and kind of check things out. And she was up ahead of me, and I went over the bridge, and I caught up to Shane on the other side of the bridge. I go, did you see that garbage truck dumping in the river? She goes, no, was it dumping in the river? I go, dude, it was literally backed up to the river, and the whole garbage truck was just dumping down the river.
Environmental standards haven't quite hit.
No. And I think that's part of the problem. I think Vietnam, and I'm not a professional in this, but it looked just from my eye that it's really advancing quick, and they haven't caught up to the garbage problem yet. Maybe they need a landfill or even garbage collection. Clearly they had it since I see the garbage truck, but they were dumping the garbage in the river, which is
a lot of times
worse.
too. We thought that we were back in the 80s.
Yes.
But a lot of the people there are still stuck in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, they dress like it. Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah.
A lot of burning trash outside the cities too. That was
Yes.
disappointing. Like a lot of times they'd just had like trash carts in the smaller towns. They'd take it right down the street on the road, like leaving town, and just
burn
dump
it?
it out, and it was burned. There was burning trash a lot.
But something a little lighter.
I know it sounded depressing.
So you're in the guest house, you're in the hotel, the hostels. You turn on the TV. You mentioned they're in the 80s. What are they
Just
watching?
people out in public. Did we stay anywhere where that we had television?
Yeah, we did. We had some TV. It was your international channels, like BBC International, CNN.
You didn't see like Friends translated to Vietnamese?
Oh, yeah. Simpsons, The Simpsons in the Vietnamese. Yeah. And Shane would always yell at me. She said, you're watching The Simpsons and you can't understand a word they're saying. I was like, dude, it's The Simpsons, though.
And I did notice there that men don't work. Women do all the work.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like your house.
Yeah.
No, it was every time we would drive through a town or a little village, the women are working. There was one concrete place. The women were out making, and they don't make it like we do here. They're literally making bricks out in the yard. Not one man to be found. You know why? Because they're all up the road at the bar or the coffee shop playing chess.
There you go.
Yes, that's where they were. Every single time. I'm like, do men here work?
They don't in your house either, though, do they, Shane? No.
That's true. I should be used to it.
Yeah. We're stretching this on, but it's great stuff. We've got to get to
That's fine.
The last part. We've kayaked the Keys. We've biked up Vietnam.
Yes.
Then you walked across England.
Yes.
Well, how do you look? I got to ask you, why? Why? How does this come about? Why?
I always say, like, people ask me that, like, why? And I always go, why not?
It's the obvious answer.
That was just a trip that just came up all of a sudden. I don't even know how it developed. I think I found it online. I was like, you want to walk this coast to coast trail? And actually, Shane had bummed on me, and I ended up paying more for the airline tickets because she couldn't make up her mind if she wanted to go. Had really good price on airline tickets out of St. Louis. And she waited a couple of weeks to give me an answer, and they were way too more expensive then. So we ended up driving to Chicago to O'Hare.
Saved a lot of money.
Saved like $1,500 on just the drive to Chicago. But it just came up one day, and like I said, it took Shane a couple of weeks to give me an answer, and it was on.
Yeah. So tell me how this one went. I mean, obviously we don't have a language barrier.
No.
Culture.
It was beautiful.
But it's awesome. It's England, and you've got all kinds of things to do there. But why not bike it? Why walk versus bike this time?
Well, there's a trail over there called the Coast to Coast Trail. It's 192 miles long. You hike from St. Bees
on the Irish Sea
to Robin Hood's Bay
on the North Sea. So
Yes.
it's across northern England, like maybe 20 or 30 miles from Scotland, the southern border of Scotland. That's where we're at in far northern England.
Is this a picturesque trail?
Oh,
that's
beautiful.
live?
Yeah.
Yes. And I had just gotten back from a bike, so I like to mix it up a little bit. I think he was looking to do another bike, but I bike and I love it, but I hate it and I need to do something else. So he came across this hike and I'm like, okay, I'll hike, but I don't want to bike again yet. We just did 1,200 miles. I need to do something different.
Yeah.
It's like I think the National Geographic rates it as one of the top 10 scenic hikes in the world. Mm-hmm. So it was really beautiful, especially the Lake District, which we walked through first. I mean, you wouldn't think England was mountainous, but in that section, there's some pretty good peaks.
Is this where Loch Ness and all that stuff is?
I don't know about that, but you ever heard of the Mach Loop that the military does, where they fly through the mountains in England? It's called the Mach Loop. And it's a place, and it's in the Lake District of northern England. We actually seen a jet fly through the Mach Loop while we were there, and it was pretty cool because we heard the echoing of the jet coming, and then Shane was like, "Hey, there's a jet," and he's like a treetop level or a little higher, just flying through the mountain passes. It was pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah. But
so you land in St. B.
No, we landed in Manchester.
Yes.
Or Manchester.
We flew into Manchester.
Okay.
Plane delayed again. 2 hours in Philadelphia. We show up in Manchester. We had bought our train tickets in advance to get from Manchester to St. Bees because we had read that the trains are really full, so it'd be better. So we had our train ticket already. We're 2 hours behind. Our train's leaving in 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. So we got to change our ticket because we think we're going to miss our train. So we show up at the ticket booth. The guy looks at our tickets. He's like, I can change it here for you. And then he's like, you know what? Your train's right out there right now. You got 3 minutes. So we're running through the train, the station with our backpacks on. And as we get up to the last car, the doors close. I'm like, next car,
Barely
next
made
car.
it.
If we get the next car, the doors close again. So now we're down to the third car. And finally we just jumped on. And the train was just stuffed full of people. So we got big backpacks on and we're just trying to make our room. But yeah, then we're off to St. Bees and got to change trains in Carlisle. England, so we changed trains, which went very smooth, and take a local train to St. Bees, and we get there, and luck always pays. We have no reservations, no hotel line. It's raining like crazy. It's foggy and it's cold. We show up at this guy's hotel. Hey, you got any rooms? You got a reservation? We're like, no. He goes, today's your lucky day. I just had a lady call in. She canceled 2 rooms, so you guys got a room. We're like, okay, we'll take it.
You guys are something else. I swear. As much as we've talked over the last how many shows here. So how many days are you planning to take to do this? You've always got the time limit, Shane.
Correct.
Yes, 10 days. We gave ourselves 10 days to walk across to England, and hopefully a couple days we could take the train down to London, which worked out perfect. It took us 10 days to walk the 192 miles, and then we caught a train out of Scarborough and went down to London for a couple
And you're
days.
moving east to west, right? Or was it west to east?
Well, west to east. West to east.
Okay.
Yes.
You started on the Ireland side and walked to the eastern side.
Yes.
Gotcha.
West to east, yeah. And it's pretty well not a straight line, but it's pretty well straight across there. Mm-hmm. And you go through the Lake District. There's 3 national parks you go through. And I just can't explain the beauty, especially the Lake District, and Shane can confirm that. It's tough hiking. That Lake District was harder in parts than the Appalachian Trail.
Really?
Yeah, it was tough hiking, and it was really. I had the Gut Hook app on my phone, so we could follow the trail. It's an offline app, and it was tough to follow the trail because you would get into cow pastures, and the trail would just disappear. It'd just be like a grass field, and we'd be walking across. I'm like, okay, we're close to the trail, but we're not quite on.
You hope when you get across, you
We
see
were
a
off
marker.
the trail a lot.
Oh yeah, it was a constant battle.
You know, the last time we talked, we were talking a lot about on the Appalachian Trail. You'd say you'd see people all the time. Was this something that was very popular? A lot of folks doing it. You see a lot of folks.
We made a lot of friends on the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Met an American named Allie, who was a Pacific Crest Trail hiker. I think she hiked 1,000 miles. She was over there hiking.
Most of the
coast
people on the trail were
they were locals.
They were locals.
Yeah, they're from England.
from England.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
Met a couple. It's the same concept of we just talked about Vietnam. Just small English rural towns we walked through, and the people were just super nice. Like we're walking to a village one day, and the guy's like pulls up. He goes, "Hey, the pub doesn't open till noon." We're like, "Well, it doesn't." He's like, "Hey, come in my house. I'll give you some water." So we just walk in his house. We fill up our water jugs. He's like, Well, no, he actually drove off, and then a lady walks across the street. We're sitting at a picnic table out in front of the pub, and a lady walks across the street, and she's like, "You need to get in the pub?" And we're like, "Nah, we'll wait till they open at noon." She's like, "Well, I can get you in if you guys need anything." We're like, "Nah, we'll just wait." That's this kind of thing. And
So if we're talking to when we talked way before about the Appalachian Trail, it was shelter to shelter. Maybe there's room in the shelter or not. What was your trip like this time?
Hostels.
Hostels?
Yes.
hostel, I'd say 50-50, because we did put up the tent. I think 5 tenting days and 5 hostel
we did
days.
tent on
yeah,
that
it was
trip.
like 5 tenting days and 5 hostel
That's
days. I'd
right.
say.
Was it set up for that with shelter stops like the App Trail? Or?
No shelters.
shelters.
But the distance between towns was very short. Sometimes we'd walk through 2 or 3 towns a day, and
Gotcha.
not that they all had places to stay, but we could line that out on good hooks. Where we were going to stay, and we kind of broke it up. I think we'd tent one night, then hostel the next night, so we'd get a shower, do some laundry, and we carried our food. But when we stayed in a hostel, we'd always go eat at the local pub and drink beer.
Yeah.
But not English beer. We drank like
Foster's.
Foster's.
You know why we drank Foster's? And there's one thing.
It was cold.
It was
Yeah.
ice
The English
cold.
beers,
Yeah.
they're
They were
warm.
just
Yes.
Yeah.
warm. And Guinness is really big over there.
Our-
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a Guinness fan.
When we were in St. Bees, anywhere we go, no matter where we go, we always try the local beers. We loved Vietnam beer. There wasn't one that we didn't like. But then when we got to the first night in St. Bees, we order an English beer. I'm like, okay, that's the one and only English beer I'm having.
Yeah.
They're going to serve it warm. So then I switched to Foster's. Everyone had Foster's, and that's what I drank the rest of the time.
We'd go to a pub, and the Americans just came in, the 2 Americans, and they're ordering Foster's. And most of the bartenders were guy bartenders, like, "Oh man, we got great English beer. And you know what? We'll just stick with the Foster's. We're pretty cool with
You got
that."
a Bud Light?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I think we found out that Foster's is owned by Heineken, and Heineken also owned all the Vietnam beers were brewed by
Really?
Heineken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was odd.
Well,
but they did have breweries.
Global brewing.
Yeah,
That's the thing these days.
They did
Right.
have breweries in Vietnam. I guess they brewed it locally. They probably bought the Vietnam beers out
Yeah.
over the years. And same
Tiger
with Foster.
beer. Tiger beer was our favorite Vietnam
Yeah,
beer.
Tiger was a good beer.
But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. As long as it was cold,
Yeah.
it was good.
Yes.
Were there cool sites? I mean, you said you're always doing research, Brad. So if you're walking by, you're going, "Oh, this was this," or tell me a story about some history you saw along the way.
There was some cool Roman history along the way.
Really?
Adrian's Wall. We crossed the place where Adrian's Wall was, and that was just on the train.
What's Adrian's Wall?
I think didn't the Romans build a wall across England, like a fortress wall?
I don't know.
To
Yeah.
keep the Scots out, maybe. To keep them out of England, so they built a wall across northern England. And I may be totally wrong in the history. Somebody's probably listening right now, going, "That guy is so full of shit."
Yeah.
Google
But you know
Adrian's
what?
Wall.
Google it, you
Yeah.
lazy son of a bitch. I walked it. You still got better.
Yeah, and it was on the train on the way to St. Bees. We stopped at a little train stop, and I'm like, "Hey, check that out! Some cool Roman history." And it was Adrian's Wall had run through there, that little town.
Yeah.
So, and as far as the hike goes, just really the national parks. I really wasn't up on the history of that. It was just a cool hike. To go through all and northern England's just sheep farming, cattle.
A lot of cows and a lot of sheep.
Yeah, a lot of cows, a lot of sheep,
A lot of cow poop.
a lot of cow poop.
Yeah.
I mean, Shane one day was jumping around a mud puddle. And a lot of gates you got to walk through because they got all the stone walls, and you just got to walk through gates. And Shane went to jump on a rock, which he thought was a rock, was just a load of cow shit. Stuck your foot, just squished it right down. It's like, "Hey, how's that rock? How's that rock doing you over there?" She's like, "Shut up! It's
It looked like a rock."
It's cow shit." It was pretty, and we walked through the trail, went through a slate mine because all the roofs in northern England are still made out of slate.
Yeah.
And they have a active slate mine, and it was pretty cool. You don't see that a lot around the States.
Yeah.
Slate mining, and then a couple other minings. They must have mined ore a lot in northern England. So we went through a lot of strip mine areas where they had mined
Yeah.
ore and stuff. It was pretty interesting, but it's a good trip. I mean, I don't know if people are going to do it. I'd recommend it, just like I'd recommend Vietnam. I have run into people back to Vietnam that have went to Vietnam but never cycled it. They always just went to like Saigon or
However,
Hanoi.
we did see people cycling Vietnam. We were not the only people there cycling Vietnam.
That is true.
Yes, we were past a couple going the opposite direction within the first couple of days from Holland.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And then we met a couple from Germany.
Yep.
They have been biking for 3 years all around the world.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we met a couple from France.
Yeah.
They were biking, I think, just the 3 countries, right?
Yeah, they were just on a southeast.
And then we saw some other ones just in passing. We didn't stop and talk to them, but just saw them in passing. So, yeah, there are other people who do these crazy adventures.
I mean, we could go on for that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you guys are nuts by most people's estimation.
Yes.
When you're talking with friends and most people like me, we take a vacation, we go somewhere. Now people think I'm crazy because I'll just go down to Disney World and ride rides and eat food and I'll walk 6-7 miles a day, but it's all around the same circles. But people think I'm nuts.
But it makes you happy, though.
But
that's the whole deal.
And I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes you happy.
This is what makes you two tick.
Yes.
Yes.
It really is. So you've been all around the world. You've been to Asia. You've been to Europe. You've done these crazy endurance things. You get in a kayak and run around islands. What can possibly motivate you guys going forward? I mean, just the next challenge? Is that it?
For me, yes. Like the Pacific Crest would be the highlight of everything.
And you're getting ready to do that.
Yeah, if I could complete it, that would be probably the highlight of all my adventures. And I'm going to give it a shot.
I don't believe it.
I'm going to give it a shot.
I talked to you a year ago, and you were like, or a year and plus ago, you rode around the country on your bicycle, and you thought, I don't think I'll ever do anything this crazy. And here you are. You're looking at something else like this.
It's always the next big adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
For me. But, I can't say it's about for me, just going everywhere, I always go back to it's the people you meet, the stories they tell, the stories you tell people. And like I always tell Shane when we're in Vietnam, you're almost like an ambassador. Even when you're in England, you're an ambassador of America. A lot of people may only meet a couple Americans their whole lives. And if you can show them like, wow, Americans are pretty cool. That couple was pretty cool. They tell the next person and the next person before you know it, Americans are pretty cool. I met a couple, that were pretty cool people instead of always seeing what's on the news. Like America's bad. It's crime. It's this and that. And you meet a couple and like, the Americans are pretty cool. So that's what it is for me.
Shane?
I just want to go on a beach vacation.
Yeah. Just want to drink margaritas for once.
Why can't I just be normal?
Yeah. Go to a resort somewhere
Right.
and just park your butt in a chair.
Yes.
We've done that, and we've done it several times.
We actually tried to do that, John. We try to go on a beach vacation. You know what we do? We get up early in the morning, we go to the gym, we work out, then we go to the beach and we walk forever and a day on the beach, come back. Very rarely do we actually sit down on the beach and chill.
Yeah. You just can't do it.
We just can't sit that long.
No.
I'll give you a funny story which I thought was the funniest story in England. We had arrived at Robin Hood's Bay, had no place to stay, and it was looking pretty grim on the stay. We had went to a couple bed and breakfasts, and they're like, "No, we don't have any room." So there was this bed and breakfast called Lee Bed and Breakfast. I told Shane, I go, "Let me handle this one. I'm going to get us a room." So we knock at the door, and a guy comes up. "Can I help you?" I was like, "How would you like to have a couple cool Americans staying with you tonight?" He's like, "Do you have a reservation?" I'm like, "No, we just showed up here and knocked on your door." He's like, "Let me get my wife. She kind of runs the bed breakfast. She come out. I basically laid the same line on her. She's like, "You know what? I like you guys. I'm going to get you a room." So she made her son move out of his room for the night.
And we stayed in mine.
We stayed in his son's room. In the son's room. And you know what? It was like a best day. I mean, we got this overlook. We're kind of up in the attic, but it got some windows, and we're overlooking all of Robin Hood's Bay out of the attic. It was beautiful. It was cool. It was what you would picture England to see.
I don't know of a better place to end than that story.
I'm cool with that.
I mean, Always, as we talk about it, where do we find your information? You go on Facebook, and it's
mile and a half. Or you can hit me up. If you can't find it, hit me up at Brad Fiori, and I will put you on the page.
Yeah. And Shayne, Brad, so happy to have you come over and we talk about this.
Yes.
You're welcome here anytime.
Fun.
You're 3-timers now on the What's That Like podcast. I'm so proud to have you. It's like I'm just an idiot in my garage with a couple of microphones. You guys should be on like CBS Sunday Morning or something. I don't know. They should be writing articles in newspapers about
Maybe one of these days.
Maybe one of these days somebody will see it.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know.
If you had a YouTube channel, you'd be big hits. I believe that. I really do.
There's a lot of people who have them, hikers. And,
It's a lot of work, the YouTube channel, but I've actually looked into it. It's a lot of editing and
it's work.
Yes.
Stuff you're not really used
Yeah,
to.
there you go.
I'm not used to work, but
He can just come here and you can do the work.
There you go.
You can edit all the bad English out of the.
That's part of your
program.
charm, my friend. As we've said before, that you're just Central Illinois proud people, and you're out seeing the world. And most people never, they might travel around the country, like they might take a European vacation. They'll go to Mexico and sit on a beach.
Yep.
You guys see the world from a whole nother view. I
do,
see it
that's true.
I see it from airplanes and fast moving cars, and you've walked it and pounded into your feet. You've done it on a bicycle tire at 12, 13 miles an hour. I can't even imagine what you guys do.
It's a lot different. Yep.
I'm glad you said that, because that's my whole page is all about, is seeing the America and the world at a 3-mile-an-hour pace or a 12-mile-an-hour pace. That's the whole theme behind the page, to get off the main roads and walk, bike.
I get a little teary-eyed thinking about it. You got a tear in your eye too, Shayne. I see it right there. Thanks for coming on once again. Anytime you guys want to come back, we'll make it happen.
We'll come back.
When you get
good.
done with that PCT, we're gonna make this happen.
If it's successful, I'll hit you up. If I'm a total failure, you'll never hear from me again.
There you go.
No, it was great. It was great being with you. I love coming on the show.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate. I know you're a big fan. You listen to all the episodes
Yes,
too, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. You got to put something in your ears when you're walking. Right?
Yes, I do.
That's right. All right. Take care, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was Brad and Shayne and their adventures again through the Florida Keys, Vietnam, and in merry old England. So there you go. Hopefully that brought you some joy during this time. Stay safe out there, everyone. It seems like the news is changing every day with what we have to do for precautions. Please take care of that. Please take care of yourselves. We certainly don't want to hear about anyone, losing the battle with this thing. I know there's a lot of hot spots around the country, and let's keep Central Illinois as safe as we can. Follow the guidelines. Do what you can. Wash your hands. Stay home. All that stuff. If you like this episode, of what I'm going to do is I'm going to repost the previous 2 Brad Fiori episodes. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we'll have the Cycling Around America out, and we'll have the Appalachian Trail out in the next couple of days. So if you enjoyed this one, you hadn't listened to the other ones, we'll get those back out in the feed. Some classic rewind on the What's That Like podcast, just like what they're doing on TV. Not a lot of new content, a little bit of reruns. So we're doing the same thing here. Hope you enjoy it. And until then, stay safe, stay well, stay healthy, and peace out.